So you mentioned it earlier about the defensive side of things. So let's move over to that defense. And the unit was very impressive in 2023, finishing 23rd in total defense, 62nd in rushing defense, and a very impressive 6th in passing defense. What makes the pass defense even more impressive is that the Huskies weren't very effective in terms of getting sacks, ranking 92nd with 1.7 sacks per game. So, sacks kind of goes hand in hand with the defensive line. They lose James Esther to graduation, and George Gums transfers off to Florida. But they do return leading tackler Rasheem Thomas and just about everyone else. How did that unit look this spring? Did anyone stand out, or were they able to find ways to generate more pressure?
Yeah, because when you look at it, it's like when you're looking at the numbers, it's like, oh, yeah, the defensive line, 92nd in sacks. They applied, like, if you just watched them week in and week out, you wouldn't have known that number was so low. That was the defensive line is, and the front seven as a whole is definitely a strength of this team. It is, absolutely where the strength in this team lies is in that front seven. Secondary is good and everything, but that front seven and that defensive line is really, really good. One of the missing pieces last year, Pierce Oppong, a defensive end. He's been starting since 2020. He missed most. I think he played the first game and was done right away. He's back this year, and that's going to give him a big presence on the outside. That should be a difference maker in that sack department, I'm thinking. That's going to help get those numbers up. But no, this, again, it's hard to say. It's hard to argue with numbers, but this defensive line was a lot better than those sack numbers indicate.
The linebacking group loses the third leading tackler, Tyler Jackson, but does return second leading tackler, Jaden Dolphin, and others. How did the linebacking group look this spring?
Yeah, as much as I just talked about how good the line is, the linebacker group was probably, and it's hard to tell because I'm not at every practice and, whatever, I'm not a coach, but I would say it was probably the best group on the team. The linebacking group, Jaden Dolphin's just made such incredible strides. His position coach, himself, Hammock have all said that his leadership has really come on, which obviously is he's, the guy now, or at least the most experienced one in the team. That's a big deal. The other name, and I think this is a spoiler alert for what's about to come up, but Christian Furman is transfer in, and he basically has been plugged in for Tyler Jackson. And he is he's looked incredible.
So moving over to the defensive backfield, they pretty much all return. They do lose Devin Lafayette to Troy, but Deron Gilbert, Nate Valcarel, Jordan Hansen, Jason Profit, Jacob Finley all return. They bring in Kawan Davis coming over from Washington State. Is this group ready to kind of dominate again like they did in 2023?
Yeah, I think that they gave up some big plays. They would do that. especially, during the 4-game losing streak. I mean, it kind of was like a tale of two different teams. When the team lost, they couldn't stop anything. And when they were winning, you couldn't throw the ball against them. So, they give up like 320 yards a game. That was pretty much like 640 in half of them and 0 in the other half. So, I mean, it was, I think this is a lot more consistent of a group. You mentioned Val Carcel. Oh my Lord, during the spring. It wasn't just the spring showcase. It was throughout the spring. The dude's a ball hawk. I mean, he was just making play after play. He was bringing pressure. They can blitz him if they want. I'm pretty sure he's a safety. They blitzed him a couple times. He all over the field making plays. He just, if how he played in the spring translates to how he's going to play in the fall, then he's going to be one of the best defensive players in the MAC.
And it seems like you got a lot of players to choose from here on the defense side. If you had to pick a defensive player to have a breakout type season in 2024, who would that be?
Well, I just talked about Val Carcel and Ophong a bunch. I mean, those are two probably of your prime candidates. I'm going to go a little under the radar with a name just to get a different name out there. And it's someone who could play himself into a lot more playing time. And that's there's actually a lot of guys. Like Furman could be there. You really can't go wrong with picking a name on this defense, to be honest with you, for having a big year. I'm going to go with Jordan Hansen. He's been with the team since 2020, since the 0-6 COVID year. He saw his playing time decrease as you mentioned Devin Lafayette. His playing time got more and more, but Lafayette's gone now. I think you're going to see Hansen make the most of his opportunities, and even though it's a loaded group at safety, I really, between him and CJ Brown, or between Lafayette and CJ Brown being gone, I think there are a couple more opportunities, and I think Hansen, you'll see him with a couple picks, you'll see him with a couple sacks, you'll see him with some big stops, and from a name that definitely has flown under the radar in this group of quote unquote big name guys.